people, we are Tottenham TV back here for another review stream as Spurs suffered their 20th defeat of the season at the hands of Crystal Palace. Now, I heard it was the first time Crystal Palace have done the double over us.
I think it's that, and also the first time they've beaten us at home in 28 years.
Wow.
28 years.
So even more records coming for us this season, unwanted records. And yeah, it was definitely a day to forget at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which we'll get into the match review in a second. But we do have a bet to settle today. And yeah, I won't explain it to you. I'll let the footage do the talking.
The big question for Southampton, will they break Derby's record?
Yeah, I'm going to go there.
They need 5 points.
Yeah, I think they will get it.
They will get 5 points.
I think so.
So they won't break Derby's record.
As in they'll beat Derby's points tally
beat
is what I'm saying, yeah. Are you saying no?
I'm unconvinced. They're just losing every week.
We're going for a costume bet.
You want to do a costume bet? Sure. I'm happy to do a costume bet. 5. So they need 5 points from now. No, they need 6 points from now to the end of the season.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I don't mind. I like costumes these days.
You've lost 2 out of 2.
I'm used to them now.
All right, let's do it.
There we go. We got our very own Cleopatra in the house.
Cleopatra.
Give you a little twirl. Yeah, bloody Southampton. I thought after the Leicester game, I was pretty safe.
Yeah, well, I think we all did, to be honest. I was messaging you saying, yeah, this bet's done. They've got Man City and
teams,
Arsenal.
Man City of all teams, letting me down. When they actually have something to play for, it's only a dead game for them, and they still couldn't beat them.
All right, well, let's get into the game yesterday. Like I said, we lost by 2-0. Terrible, terrible performance. I was obviously there yesterday. You were here in the studio.
But tell me, actually being at the game, because there was quite a lot going on before the game.
Yeah, there was a lot going on.
Different things going on.
I was at the event outside the stadium for Emily Damari, and if you guys don't know, she was a hostage that was held capture from October the 7th. Big Spurs fan, British citizen as well. And yeah, there's been a lot made out of it through the Spurs fan base, you know, campaigning for her release and everything like that. She got released, and this was the first time she'd been back at Tottenham since all that happened. So it was quite an emotional day from that aspect. There was a lot of people, I would say between 50 and 100 people there welcoming her back. There were loads of balloons and songs, and it was really nice, to be honest. And then she walked into a bit of a hero's welcome, which was nice. She got treated to a box at Spurs. She met the likes of James Maddison, Gary Mabbott, Ledley King. So they made a whole fuss of her at Spurs yesterday. So that was really nice. There was the protest yesterday, which I didn't get to at the end, which I was planning to, but you know,
don't let Daigle hear that. Don't let Daigle hear
I
that.
just didn't manage to get there because of the whole Emily Damari event, to be honest. So I heard the protest wasn't as big numbers as it has been.
Have you seen any? I haven't
weeks.
seen any videos.
Yeah, I have.
I didn't see any.
It was pretty small. They were saying around, I don't know how many there were, 100 to 200 people or something.
Okay.
If that. So
I think it's just a consequence of the situation, isn't it? A few days after a final, yeah. A few days after reaching the final, I should say. I guess a lot of people just felt it wasn't the right time. Each to their own. A lot of people think, we spoke to Change the Spurs, didn't we? And they said, the timing of this protest was fairly deliberate, they said, and they want to continue to put pressure on regardless of the situation. And look, that's fair enough. I think, they want to stick to their principles, and getting to this final doesn't change anything for them when it comes to the ownership. And I think for a lot of fans, it doesn't change anything. But I guess for a lot of fans as well, it's all about time and a place, I guess. And some fans felt like this wasn't the time or place. Some fans felt like it shouldn't change. But clearly the numbers, I guess, spoke for themselves, I should say.
I think so. And I think, from my perspective, in my personal opinion, I would have liked to have been there. I don't think the message probably should change regardless of what's happening, because I don't think the club are going anywhere close to being in the right direction. I think Daniel Levy needs to be held accountable for that. However, I do feel like right now, in this moment in time, everyone should put their kind of differences aside. to be honest. Everyone should put their differences aside, and we should all come as one for the cup final. After the cup final, we can go back to being like, giving our opinions on Ange, on the board, and everything like that.
After the bus parade.
Yeah, after the bus parade.
Please.
Right, after the bus parade. So look, I feel like it's not the right timing, to be honest, for a protest. I still would have been there if I could have made it, but it just is what it is. That's the reality. We're in a cup final. That's the main thing right now. That's literally all that matters right now is that cup final. Nothing else matters. And we all need to be together for it.
Agreed.
Everyone needs to be singing off the same hymn sheet. That's why I'm getting really frustrated at the moment with a lot of people are talking about Ange in, Ange out. And I know I've been a big culprit of that, for a large part of the season. But now we're here. Now we're in a cup final. I don't want to talk about any of that. Everyone needs to be supporting him. Everyone. Whether you're a big fan of him or you hate him, it doesn't matter. He's going to be managing us in the cup final. We're all as one team. We all need to be going into it as one. And that's what needs to be done, in my opinion.
Agreed. And I know a lot of people are going to be upset with the performance yesterday. I think the result, everyone was like, whatever. I think no one really cared that we lost. Even people who have been very upset with the season. I think most people don't really care that we end up losing the game yesterday. I do think most of the anger, which I do think it's probably less anger yesterday than there have been in other defeats. But I think most of the anger probably comes from just how we lost. It was just such a pathetic and awful, abject. I mean, abject is a kind word. It was a terrible performance.
What I would say just before we get into the game, as soon as you got into the stadium, right? The stadium was buzzing, by the way. People were gathering like at the front bit by the atrium, where we like to celebrate after the game, after big wins, with Spurs are on their way to Bilbao. And it was just gathering and loads of people were gathering there just singing it. But then that kind of all stopped when the game started.
It was a shame. Well, there was no chanting during the game, Bilbao, anything?
There was a little bit at the beginning, but after it was clear to see that we were just getting battered. It just kind of all drowned out.
Yeah. But it's hard to be happy when you're actively watching the game and, you can see all that going on. But I'm glad before the game, at least, anyway, there was a bit of excitement and a bit of, trying to get people hyped up for the big European final. And I think that's obviously for a lot of, you got to remember, like, there are going to be fans. We've obviously saw Tottenham win a trophy 16 years ago, but there's even fans, who are now 15 or 16 who haven't even seen Tottenham in a cup final or let alone, in a not cup final, haven't seen Tottenham lift a trophy before. Unlike us, who have at least had the privilege of seeing that in our lifetime, there are a lot of fans who have a lot of younger fans. So for them, it's unbelievably exciting moment. I mean, it's exciting for us, but imagine having never seen Tottenham lift a trophy at all in your lifetime, like unbelievable opportunities. So I think there's
also the caliber of trophy as well. You know what I mean? Because
never seen that.
Carabao Cup. This is a European trophy, which no Spurs fan has seen since 1984, which is, even before I was born.
Yeah.
I was born in the 80s, but nowhere near 1984.
You have to go back to my dad's age and people like that who were when the last time they were the ones seeing that trophy. So, it's been a long, long time for this football club. And I don't like, I always see like people bring up Amorim quotes and saying all these different things and comparing it to how Ange is approaching this final. But at the end of the day, you can't really compare his situation to ours in terms of where Amorim is. Amorim's coming to a club where they've won, even in their worst periods post-Fergie, they've won trophies consistently. This is a club that's done 13 Premier League titles. This is a club with the utmost kind of expectations and has the utmost recent history. Like, he's coming into a club that have won 2 trophies in their past 2 years. And just walking into a completely different scenario and a different club, a club starved of silverware, starved of success, starved of trophies. And for us, winning that trophy is everything. Is everything. Like, it's none of this, it doesn't make a difference. Like Amorim saying it doesn't make a difference for United if they win it or not, and all these different things. For us, it's just, this is everything for us. This is absolutely everything. This is all we've ever wanted. So, like, it's just a completely different scenario. We have to go put everything into this final.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, look, the game started, and I think it became very clear pretty early on that, look, the reality was it was 2 teams gearing up for a cup final. Crystal Palace have the cup final against Man City next weekend. We got the cup final in about 8-9 days time, whenever it is. And when you're looking at the two lineups, they clearly went a lot stronger than us. Like we were playing we had Pape Matasar in the 10, we had Kulesvski up top, we had a makeshift back four, Kinski was in goal. I mean, we had a complete makeshift team out there. They more or less were full strength, barring one or two. They had more or less their first team out there, and I think the balance of play, the way they dominated, the way they're consistently creating chances, I think that pretty much showed, didn't it? 100%.
And I think first of all, a lot of people saying, look how Palace approached the game. Why couldn't we do something similar? Well, they didn't have a game in midweek, in Bodo, playing on a plastic pitch, all these different things. Like, if we didn't have a midweek game, maybe we would have played a more stronger team, but we did, and we have to protect these players. We have to wrap them in cotton wool for this game on when we come up against United in the final. That's what's the most important thing. They're in a different situation. They're playing one game a week, and they can maybe afford to maybe just keep the rhythm, knowing they're not playing for another week as well. We've got a game on Friday a bit earlier, so it's just a different scenario. And I think however they approached the game, it was right for us to rest that many players. And I think the players we did play, maybe from Thursday, I think Porro, Bentancur, Decky, those were the three that obviously played. Decky obviously going off injured after 15 minutes, praying he's okay. Didn't look great. Obviously, it was just like one of these innocuous challenges, and he seemed to not recover from it. Andrew's saying it's not so serious, but we have to wait and see. I think Bentancur and Porro was a bit of a peculiar one, but I guess who else are you going to play, really? You have to just make a choice.
I don't think that. I think Porro might have been peculiar, but I don't think Bentancur was peculiar. We were saying it in the build-up, in the pre-match. We're running out of midfielders, and we said we'd like to see Bentancur play a half and Bissouma play a half, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's what that's my point. It's not peculiar, but I'm saying if you were a fan who wanted everyone rested, that might have been peculiar ones. But again, if you rest Porro, you're probably going to have to play Bentancur and Bissouma. So it was just a balancing act. And then Porro only played an hour, didn't he? So he got taken off fairly early. So I think he did the right thing in that sense, in terms of managing all those players, apart from obviously Decky, who was forced off. And
I see a lot of fans, on the same narrative that you're talking about, like, why can't we put as much into the game as Palace did? And yeah, on an ideal situation, I would have liked to see that happen. But everyone, I didn't meet anyone that said we shouldn't be resting players coming into this game. And now we've rested players and we've got battered. Everyone's like, oh, why didn't we go strong in this game? It's like, you can't have it both ways.
No, yeah, and I think it was the right thing to do. He does claim maybe on Friday the team might be a bit stronger, but we'll have to wait and see about what the team will be on that day and how he approaches it. But I think Palace were obviously way more kind of settled. You could see the cohesion in their team was just so much better than us. We were just all over the place. It was a shit show. It was one of the worst probably performances we've seen this season. It was,
we've seen some bad
ones. I mean, we had 2 goals ruled out from VAR, which were very tight decisions, both of them. I mean, Mateta was offside by a shoulder, and the way he won, Richards' header was going in, and it just about brushed Guehi's arm on the way in, and so we just got away with that as well. It was just a matter of time before we conceded. We weren't offering anything really going the other way. The closest we came was like a Porro free kick. Other than that, we just offered nothing. We were a bit all over the place, just from the back to the front. We were also being quite lazy, very similar to what game was it recently? I can't remember which one. It was I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but I think maybe the Liverpool one, where we basically were just getting the ball and just lumping it forward without any real thought of playing any sort of football or trying to like play around them. It was just about getting the ball, trying to get it into the front three, trying to get them to hold it up and see what they could do. And it was never going to work because Tel, Odebear, and obviously it turned out to be Mikey Moore for the majority of the game. They're just never going to hold it up, especially against the likes of Guehi, Lacroix and Richards, 2 very physical, very combative centre-backs who don't give you a moment's rest. Very difficult to play against. And every ball over the top they were gobbling up. Every ball into feet they were gobbling up. It was just every time we got the ball it was coming back at us, and then we were being sliced open every time. Munoz was having the freedom on that right hand side to get in on goal and just do what everyone, cause as much havoc as possible. It seemed as though they aimed for him every time. Mitchell wasn't getting as much involved, and Munoz was basically like another winger there on that right hand side.
He was destroying us down that flank. We couldn't handle his pace, we couldn't handle his physicality. 2 of the goals that were ruled out, I think both came through him. It was just...
hit the bar as well, didn't he? Hit the bar
as well. I mean, he was just destroying us down that side, and Eze was just picking up all sorts of spaces as well. We just couldn't handle whatever they were throwing at us. That's the reality. And 2-0 scoreline by the end of it flattered us big time. Massively.
At half time, yeah.
And it could have been 4-5-6 yesterday.
It was actually 1-0 at half time, wasn't it?
It was 1. I was talking about the full-time result.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like, even at half time, 1-0 flattered us massively. It was just a non-event from a Spurs situation. Danso was getting pulled left, right, and centre. He was getting caught in all sorts of positions. Jed Spence as well. I was really disappointed with those two in general, Danso and Spence, because these guys, they've got to have it in their head that they're fighting for a place in that Europa League final. Spence has been, ousted in the team by Destiny Udogie by his brilliant performances, and we want to see kind of Spence respond and try and up his performance levels in these kind of Premier League games to try and gain a place back. But I don't think he's done anything to that kind of sort. I think in the Premier League, since he's lost his place, I think he's been really poor, to be honest.
Yeah, I do wonder if it's a psychological thing in terms of having worked so hard to get into the team and earn your place, and was at one point one of the higher performing fullbacks in the league for a certain period of time, and then to lose your place to Udogie for the most important games when they've come around must be very, very frustrating, when for a lot of the season you've been number one. And as well, it must be also doubly frustrating the fact that Udogie's playing so well, you know what I mean? And so even if he plays well, is he going to get back in the team? That must be psychologically, something not great. But obviously you want him to react to that and up his performance, but unfortunately it seems to have had the opposite effect. But and I think Andrew's doing the right thing in terms of selection. He's got to play Udogie and Porro right now. That those two are completely earned their place in Europa. They've been near perfect in Europa in the last few knockout rounds. So there's not much Ange can do, and Spence can only Spence can do is keep knocking on the door. But at the moment, he's not giving Ange a decision to make, unfortunately.
Yeah. And Danso as well. I know the back two are pretty much confirmed for the final in Van der Ven and Romero, but Danso, every time he stepped in, I thought he's been pretty good so far this season. And I think yesterday was his poorest performance in a Spurs shirt, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, he struggled. I think he really struggled with Mateta every time they played it to Mateta into feet. I thought, to be fair, most of the time Mateta was kind of sticking to Davis, but even with Danso as well, he just bullied them. He made it stick every time. And it was like there were times where they put the ball forward and actually committed a lot of risk, because they committed loads of players forward, and all it needed was just a little nick of the ball off Mateta, and all of a sudden we could have been on the attack. But Mateta every time makes it stick, and when he makes it stick, he brings Eze and Munoz and Sarr all into play, and it just causing us so much trouble throughout the whole game. And we couldn't live with Mateta. We couldn't live with the whole front line. It was really tough. And I thought as well, unfortunately, again, Archie Gray just didn't look at it unfortunately.
There was one moment from Archie Gray in the first half towards the beginning of the game where he kind of gets in front of Eze, nicks the ball off him, and then does some darting run forward. And I was like, all right, is Archie Gray come to perform today? But that was pretty much all he did in a positive light in the game. So poor from him. But I actually think when you're looking at Ben Davis, he was probably our strongest defender over the back line. I thought the amount of times that Danso was being caught out of position, I thought Davis was the one trying to pick up the pieces all the time, just trying to cover for him, and he made a number of interceptions and blocks throughout the day. Look, don't get me wrong, I don't think he performed great or anything. He was still found wanting a lot of times, but I felt a lot of the good work that he was doing was trying to cover for Danso time and time again.
Potentially, I think, he was probably a bit better than Danso, but I think he also had a lot of struggles. I think the only one who can maybe comes out with a bit of credit was probably Porro, because especially in that he had a couple of really good crosses, didn't he? One for Sarr, which he should have scored, and there was another one in there. I think was it for Mikey Moore, who just evaded Moore, or was that Odegaard? I can't remember. But I think he had a bit of credit. I think they didn't really come down that side too much as well. So I think Porro probably deserves a little credit. I thought Kinski had a great game. I think he made a lot of saves, and he had to. I think he came back into the team. I thought his passing was decent as well. He put one beautiful ball out to Tell, who unfortunately was offside, but it was really a great kind of counter-attacking pass. But
he was so close to giving away a goal though, with that letting the ball just roll across him. I don't know what was going on there, where he just
he had a shot. Yeah, Muniz had a shot and he kind of gobbled it up, but then for some reason it spilled. But it was all right in the end. I think he actually had a really good game. He comes out with a bit of credit as well, Kinski. I thought
he was all right. I mean, but I think from my kind of recollection, he had one really good save in there. But apart from that, they're all kind of routine saves in my opinion.
But he made a lot of them. And easier said than done, against Villa. he mucks up that routine save when he costs us a goal. Like, he's got to make sure every time he's saving them. And he made, I think on the day, it was 8 saves. So I think a lot of them were,
as Roy Keane
good.
Says, it's his job, mate. Why does he need to get praised for it? It's his job.
He should be making that many. He shouldn't have to make that many, I should say. But he did. And I think comes out with a bit of credit. Kinski, I thought he had a decent game. But yeah, second half, obviously we made the change at half time. Then Basuma came on. Then he got booked pretty much immediately with a high foot. We then put Odebear in the 10. Yeah. We took off, can't remember. We took off Porro, put Gray at right back. Yeah. And then we moved Odebear to the 10. I thought for about a 5-minute period, the briefest period you want to think of, we looked like a bit fresher. But
it was less than 5 minutes. It was about 2 minutes because we came on. We started really well. We started in the ascendancy, and then they scored 2 minutes later.
Yeah,
they scored the 48th minute.
Yeah, he played a beautiful ball, didn't he, with the outside of his boot to Sarr. Great ball. Credit to him. I think Odebear, when he moved inside, was definitely getting a lot more involved, and I thought I saw some good things from him. But I thought a lot of it was just him kind of doing things by himself, not really linking up with a lot of the players. When he did kind of bring other players into play, it kind of broke down. But when he was doing things himself, I actually saw some good things from him in the 10. So that was quite an interesting thing to see. We haven't seen too much of him in that position. Apparently, he's played quite a lot there for Burnley. So maybe that's one option we have if Decky is out, is putting him there. Maybe as a last resort, maybe not starting, but that's an option we can have. Sonny obviously came on, played up. I don't really remember
Odebear making too much of an impact, to be honest. Like, even in the second half, what did he actually do? Apart from maybe going on a few runs with nothing at the end of it.
That's my point. He went on a few runs. We weren't doing anything like that. We weren't even getting the ball. At least he was getting the ball and doing a few runs. You know what I mean?
I mean, if you're judging it against everyone else on the team, fair enough. But on an objectively displayed just by looking at him, he wasn't great, was he?
I think overall he wasn't. I'm just saying in the 10, I saw some bright things from him. I'm not saying he was great. I'm just saying he was getting a bit more involved in the game. He was actually committing some players. He was doing some nice things. I thought. Look, it's obviously a very low bar. I'm probably picking hairs because there's not much to go on in this game. Yeah. But a small positive was he looked decent in the 10. I thought there were some little things that were good. Tell was very frustrating. He had a lot of moments to run at Munoz and Richards, and every time he seemed to kind of run into trouble and
Tell did it
break down. He moved to break down.
Did it tell? This is what he's been doing pretty much every game, to be honest. He sees a lot of the ball. He goes on a few runs, which makes it look like he's had a decent performance, but he's got little quality at the end of everything that he does, to be honest. He really does.
I think it's not. I don't think it's the quality at the end of it. It doesn't really get there. That's the problem. He keeps running into trouble, and he keeps not getting the chance to get a shot off or a cross. And that was again the problem yesterday. I think in a weird way, when it was in general, when he was a bit deeper and he was linking with Spence at times and Odebear when he was in the 10, there was some bright stuff there. But when it got to him having to create space for himself to shoot or cross, he keeps going the wrong way. He keeps running into trouble, and he keeps losing the ball.
Probably spent more time on the ground than actually with the ball at his feet as well. He just kept going down. He went down about 3, 4, 5 times, and he went down at the full-time whistle as well. So let's hope he's not injured as well.
Son obviously came on, played up front. Again, frustrating. He actually had a couple of moments to maybe get on the score sheet, and he just took too long to shoot on both occasions.
There was one moment where he just needed to square it to Mikey Moore. One moment, and he went for the shot, or he waited too long and ended up losing the ball. But Son on top form is finding more there, and it goes into the back of the net.
Yeah, or he's making his decision quicker. He's getting a shot off, getting it on target, and just waiting too long to do anything, unfortunately. Obviously, he did come on up front, but wasn't a great cameo, I felt, from Son. Didn't really get involved. Mikey Moore struggled a bit on the right to really get involved as well. He had one moment, I think, throughout the whole game where he went past 2 players and won a corner. Now, I think I was joking on the watch along. That was probably the best moment of the game that we had. Mikey Moore running at their back line and winning a corner. And as all that went on, Palace continued to make chances, and Palace, we were lucky that it wasn't worse than 2-0. Yeah. It could have been a lot worse, considering their XG was 3.7, and that's not even including the 2 disallowed VAR goals they had, which which were lucky that they didn't count. So, yeah, it was a very, very bad day, a very bad performance, and one that we just want to get into the back of our minds. And he seems to be saying that a lot after every Premier League game, to be honest.
Yep. 20 defeats, man, in a Premier League season, which is, unheard of for us, which is disaster, absolute disaster. 17th we're sitting now in the Premier League.
West Ham winning,
we dropped down another place. But it's all on that game on next Wednesday. If we go and win that game, nobody should, really, no one is going to think about it for a few days at least anyway, because we'll be too drunk and too hungover to think about where we finished in the league, and we'll be celebrating a trophy win. But if we don't win that final, God, this season is going to be literally the worst season we've ever seen in our lives. By far.
It's mental, isn't it? How on a knife edge, it's either the best or the worst season in our lifetime. How mad is that? It's just mad how all down to one game, what the ramifications could be.
Yeah, I know, and it just makes it so anxious going into that final, just knowing like it's literally all on that game. Because sometimes when a team's in the cup final, they've still got their league form or their league season to fall back on a little bit, and we just don't have that. And neither do Manchester United, to be honest. So that's what makes this game so kind of massive. Like it's just hinges on Champions League football for next season, the narrative surrounding the season, and just good feeling going into next season as well. There's just so much riding on this game on next Wednesday. But
just two more Premier League games to go. That's all we have to suffer
one
through.
More before the final anyway.
Yeah.
And that was the last home game before the final as well, so we won't see them again. I mean, we're not going to the game on Friday night, so that's the last game that either of us were going to be at until we get to Bilbao. Look, the biggest disappointment about yesterday was Kulesvski's injury. That was the biggest disappointment, because you're thinking about, look, just wrap these players in cotton wool, make sure we don't get any injuries going into that final. We're already without Maddison, already without Bergvall for that game. We need a creator in the middle of the park, and that is going to, when you're looking at the squad, it's solely Decky. And if he's injured, I don't know what we do with that final. Odegaard in the 10 didn't move me too much. You're not going to play Mikey Moore there. Sarr in the 10, he started the game in the 10, and I thought, less said the better. Like, what are we going to do if Kulesevski's injured?
Yeah, it's not a great situation. I understand, though. I think before the game, it was kind of like, because the reality is he's not been in great form. So, and maybe he could done with, maybe he kind of needs the more game time to get into form or getting up his match fitness ahead of the final, because he hasn't been playing well. And I'm sure he would want to go into that final in a bit better form. So I think the logic for playing him was understandable.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, 15 minutes in, he gets a big whack from one of the Palace players, and he now potentially has an injury. Now, Ange is saying he's hopefully not too serious, and hopefully he should be all right. It's just a knock, but he wasn't seen in training today. The team were training in open
Maddison,
training,
though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So, look, could be either. Maybe it's worse than he thinks, or maybe it's not as bad. But we'll have to play the waiting game now. He's going to give it. He said going to give it 24 hours to kind of settle down. But it's bad that something needs to settle. That kind of implies swelling and stuff. But let's hope that's not the case. Yeah, it's horrible news. And if we do have him out, the selection gets a bit tetchy. I mean, I think in theory, if Decky's out, the best thing might be to do is go to a back three. But unfortunately, we haven't played that too much. The only benefit potentially going to a back three would do is it kind of matches up Man United. So the kind of advantages they get from playing in a back three in terms of having those wing backs so wide in space maybe it nullifies that, and maybe it kind of matches Udogie and Porro up, and maybe Porro and Udogie can back themselves to win those battles out wide, and all of a sudden we can get some of the benefits of matching them up. But unfortunately, we just haven't played a back three enough to give me confidence that we're just going to master it in one game in a final going there. And
but also, whenever we've played a middle three without a Bergvall, Maddison or a Decky, it's been shocking as well.
It's also true.
So which way do you go? Do you go with the formation that's never worked, or a player selection that's never worked?
Yeah, that's the choice he's got to go with.
Yeah,
it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Let's just hope and pray Decky can make it. But yeah, it's not it's not great. What happened? Well, look, we have to wait and see. The noise at the moment are positive, but we have to just wait and see what can we do.
Yeah, very, very frustrating. Look, don't get me wrong, like he wasn't even in good form anyway, but we're just going to be a lot stronger with him than without him. That's just the facts of the matter. So look, horrible day at Tottenham yesterday. The biggest positive, well, not positive, but it was great to see my grandpa or our grandpa on the big screen yesterday at halftime. They did a lovely tribute to all the Spurs fans that have passed away over the current season. And I sent in the picture for grandpa, and he was up there. And it was just like a kind of emotional day all round, just because of that, Emily Damari and all that kind of stuff.
Maybe if you can you show it? If I send the picture, can you bring it up? Maybe if people want to see it. It's on our Twitter or our X. There's a picture of it you can show. But yeah, I mean, it's very touching. It's really amazing that he was they paid tribute to him like that in on the big screen. There, you got it on. We'll put a bring on screen now. So that was on the big screen in the stadium yesterday at halftime. Really emotional, especially my family seeing that as well. It meant a lot to them. So that was like a really beautiful moment, having Grandpa's picture up there. And,
absolutely,
it was very special.
Yep. And one of the main things that he kept saying in his last 2 years, I want to see Spurs win a trophy. I want to see Spurs win a trophy. So let's hope we can do it for him, next week.
100%.
But yeah, that is that from the match review.